Welcome to Frank Islam Show. I'm your host, Frank Islam. Our guest today is well-known Indian journalist Yashwant Raj, who is the Washington correspondent of the Hindustan Times newspaper. There's no better person to discuss the development in India in the aftermath of the election there and the impact on U.S.-India relations. So welcome to the show.
Thank you,
Yashwant.
Frank. Thanks for having me on the show.
And thank you very much for all you do for our country, for our community, and for this nation, and also for India. So let us just start with the recent Indian election and the soaring in of the Prime Minister Modi. Were you surprised by the kind of the majority the BJP ended up getting? I don't know how many seats they got.
282.
282 out of how many?
540 something.
Okay, so they had the clear majority.
Of course.
So what is your first impression of Modi as a Prime Minister, considering there are great expectations, high hopes, and great ambitions
Oh,
from Mr. Modi?
To your first question about if I was surprised, of course I was surprised, as everyone else in India, except with the exception of one pollster who got it right absolutely. Everyone else was surprised. And
My reaction was there's going to be 167.
there you
This
go.
is what I thought it was going
There
to
you
be.
go. Most people who follow and understand in politics had expected Modi and the BJP to do well, but not so well, and so everyone was surprised. I was surprised. I'm sure Mr. Modi was surprised himself too, but he will not show it because he predicted this kind of a victory for himself and the party. And from whatever little we have seen of Mr. Modi, he's not wasting time. The swearing in may have looked elaborate, but there was a purpose to it. Every minute of it was state business. It wasn't as if it was somebody's wedding party or a reception party. It was huge. It's never been done in India before. But the very fact that he invited the SAARC leaders to his
So that means
swearing
he
in,
invited the Afghanistan
completely.
president as well as the Nawaz Sharif.
Nawaz Sharif of Pakistan, Hamid Karzai of Afghanistan, Rajapaksa of Sri Lanka. The Bangladesh PM couldn't make it because she was traveling. She sent her speaker. So it was and the Nepalese Prime Minister. So this was an amazing show. Well, I use the word show in a very different context. It was not pomp, just for pomp's sake. It was. It gave a message. It was very clearly what Mr. Modi is going to do for the rest of his tenure, 5 years, and
He's
who
going
knows?
to fulfill his campaign promises and turn basically over not turning over the economy, but as far as the economy is concerned, he had talked about creating jobs and so on and so forth. So
We'll see. That's big. That's going to be
it is the big question. It's a big question.
That's
mark.
going to be his biggest test. Economy was the biggest issue.
Corruption, fighting corruptions.
Sure, corruption, everything is linked. Economy was the biggest issue facing the reason why the Manmohan Singh government was voted out with such humiliatingly low numbers, and so economy is going to be his big challenge. And if he and there are challenges in economy.
No question about that.
No question about that. The economy has been doing very badly in recent years, partly because of the world downturn, but partly also because of this policy paralysis that there was in India on Manmohan Singh.
There's a lot of challenges in India in terms of the infrastructure problems, in terms of acquiring the land, in terms of rules and regulations, and the list goes on and on.
Absolutely.
So there are a lot of impediment and a lot of challenges he's facing. But you see a brighter horizon, you see great ambitions and great hope and higher expectations from him, as a lot of people are talking about it. And 76% of the Indian people voted in the election, which is wonderful. We in the United States only vote about 35 to 42%.
Sure.
So let's talk about the impact that it will have U.S.-India relations and how his victory is going to affect the U.S.-India relationship.
Oh, that's going to be a rolling story. We don't know. The American leadership doesn't know the Indian leadership.
That is a true statement.
Present leadership. They've never interacted before.
Yeah.
Now the American leadership, and I include the think tanks, people like Stuart Talbot, they had dealt with the previous government.
You're talking about the Brookings Institute.
Brookings Institute.
Yeah.
So they had extensive dealings with the previous NDA government, Mr. Vajpayee, Mr. Yashwant Singh, Mr. Advani, all of whom are either gone or marginalized. Jaswant Singh is not even in the party anymore, and he lost elections. Advani won elections. He's there, but he has not been assigned an important role yet, which he will get eventually, something important, but nothing yet.
Who became the Home Minister? Dr. Rajnath Singh?
Rajnath
Dr.
Singh.
Okay.
Rajnath Singh. And Mr. Vajpayee is not keeping well, so he doesn't.
Well, he's also a little bit older now.
Yes, he's
an
kept,
elder statesman.
Oh, completely. He's kept himself out of politics.
Politics,
completely.
yeah.
As you said rightly, he is more of an elder statesman than anything else. So, the present American leadership doesn't know anything about this leadership, and they say so, and they're nervous about how they will deal with this leadership, these people, and which is not to say that they will not get working together. I mean, they're all politicians, they're all professionals. They will eventually find
a common ground.
Oh, they will.
Based
completely.
on mutual interest.
Oh, completely. But you have seen moves from the American side. The White House has congratulated
the President Obama called.
And President Obama called Prime Minister Modi and invited him over, ending the 10-year-long boycott, the visa ban, etc. So there have been moves from the U.S. Now, I guess the next move will be from New Delhi to show how they want the relationship to go forward.
Well, I see the brighter horizon in terms of the promoting the trade, which I think has increased significantly since for the last so many years.
It's
trade,
over 100
the trade,
billion.
yeah,
It's over 100 billion now.
which is a fairly good, which is not that high compared to the other European countries that we trade several $100 billion. So, and there's a lot of common ground that we can work together, and terrorism is another factor, and global economy and global leadership. India has a very major role to play. So my question to you is, do you think that this man is known for not forgetting and forgiving? So he was denied a visa in the U.S. Do you think he will pretend that everything is all right with the U.S.?
Frank, a very interesting question, a very important one, and one I'm sure everyone in the U.S. is looking
for some clues?
For some clues. Mr. Modi has never himself reacted very clearly to questions about how he will respond, how he will take the relationship.
So he keeps his card close to his chest?
But there have been instances, for instance, in an interview to a leading news channel in India, he was asked a question about, about snooping, NSA snooping on Indian mission in DC. They're all part of the fallout of the Edward Snowden leaks. And the entire interview was, he had answered till then all the questions in Hindi. For that one reply, he switched to English, and looking at the camera, he said, he doesn't have the facts as of now, and he will take a position only when he's seen them, which I thought was a very mature position to take. And the fact that he switched into English to answer that question.
So that he wanted a wider audience to know about what he was thinking about.
In my opinion, he was addressing
United States.
The United States very clearly, and signaling a willingness to do business as politicians.
He's a businessman. I mean,
he's not a businessman. He's a very pro-business leader.
He's a pro-business. He came from the state of Gujarat. He was the chief minister there, and he has done a great job over there. He's sown the seeds in terms of prosperity and so on and business relationships. So I would hope he will continue to do so.
Yeah, he's pro-business. He is very decisive. He's a
very disciplined man.
He's a very disciplined man, of course, and he has a distaste for bureaucracy. Very good example is when Tata Nano was being booted out of West Bengal. He texted Ratan Tata just one word: "You're welcome. You're welcome today." And next morning.
So he's an opportunist in some cases. Also, he took the opportunity.
Not for himself.
Which is what a business person do.
Not for himself, but for his state.
For the state of Gujarat.
For his state, but sure, he reacted like a businessman.
Yeah.
And
he saw it as an opportunity.
Yeah, he saw an opportunity for his state, and he grabbed it.
Mr. Modi was congratulated by President Obama, and he called him and congratulated him and asked him to come to the United States. So do you think there's a probability that he will come here in September when there's a New York General Assembly, just like Prime Minister Manmohan Singh did?
There is every likelihood of him coming to New York for the UNGA, but Indian leadership, they don't come to the UNGA for the sake of the UNGA. They always look for something else. So either if there is a meeting with President Obama on the sidelines in New York, or or in DC, or are there other bilaterals, or there is some other occasion for something else that Mr. Modi can achieve? Because UNGA itself is not a big deal, but Indian leaders have always tried to, like last time when Dr. Manmohan Singh was here, he met President Obama at the White House. They had lunch, a working lunch, and then he went on to New York. So there is every likelihood of him coming. I think
we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. Yes.
Mr. Modi painted a picture of a vital, vibrant 21st century India. That was the slogan. He emphasized economic development and job creation. Will Mr. Modi be able to turn the corner on the economy? Will be able to fight the corruption? Will be able to handle the dysfunctional that society, in some cases, the diplomat has become?
Oh well, if you can do all three, you can.
he will be hero.
And there are no term limits in India, remember, right? He can be Prime Minister for life. I mean,
I did not realize that. You're absolutely right. There's no term limit.
There are no term limits in India, so he can get elected 5 times, 6 times, who knows, for as long as he wants to. All three very, very big challenges. Economy. I mean, there are some low-hanging fruits that he can grab, but there are some very structural, institutional changes that India needs, and he seems to be aware of them. The need for those measures to be taken. But here is what his challenge is going to be.
We have to take a break,
okay.
Yashwant. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. We were talking to Yashwant Raj from Hindustan Times about Modi's high hope and high expectations and what he's going to do in terms of economy and job creations.
So I was saying, his biggest challenge will be, to replicate the Gujarat model, which is much acclaimed, which is what is, to do the same at a national level. How he does it, because the challenges there will be, there will be other ministries which will have stakes, which those kind of challenges didn't exist in Gujarat, and environment clearance, and so.
But he has a clear majority in Parliament.
He has a
should
clear
be
majority.
able to sail it through. The previous government didn't have the clear majority. There are a lot of obstacles and challenges. So that's one of the obstacles is gone. He has a clear majority.
Oh, so you're completely right. I mean. He has the numbers to push through any measure,
any kind of reform.
Absolutely, he has the numbers, and I'm sure he will do it. It's just that when you move from a state like Gujarat, a small
to the national level,
to this big canvas, large canvas.
That's right.
The enormity of the problem, the challenge is mind-boggling.
Considering the fact he's a driven and disciplined, he has a drive and desire to make India as a vibrant 21st century, which he said. And your point is well taken in terms of Gujarat. He was able to do some of those things. But at the national level, do you think he will have that challenge, balancing it in terms of being a pro-business, and also he has to make sure that he takes care of the Hindu nationalist also, which are the people that put him on the top. So sort of a balancing act.
That's a story that we will all be watching out for very closely. But he has time and again shown himself to be a realist, a pragmatist, and even as Chief Minister of Gujarat, he has time and again said that he will not do anything for just Hindus or just Muslims. He will do things for
all of the people.
For all of Gujarat.
Yeah, because he represents.
So
represented that state.
I'm completely aware of this aspect of Mr. Modi, and I'm sure he will be under very close scrutiny by not just Indians but the world.
All over the world.
The world community will be watching how he.
So all the eyes will be upon him.
Absolutely, he is probably among the most watched. He will be among the most watched world leaders.
He's He's not a well-known person, also in the world political scene as well. So everybody has to watch and see what he does.
He's new. People will get to know him.
Yeah. So Mr. Modi's victory seen as the result of the collapse of the creed and caste politics. What happened especially in Uttar Pradesh, as well as Rajasthan, Do you subscribe to that, Vip, that there's no longer caste and creed politics in India anymore?
Oh no, I don't agree.
You don't agree?
I don't agree. Look at Uttar Pradesh.
You think Uttar Pradesh is very much driven by the...
Look at UP.
Yeah.
Mayawati, where she is a state leader, she is a former chief minister
Right.
of the state, which is a large state. She got over 1 crore votes, which is crore would be 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
10 million votes,
Yeah, it's a large population UP has.
right? Yet she lost
the election.
She lost the election.
So-
She got not a single seat.
Oh, a member, is that
She
right?
won not a single seat. It's all arithmetic. In a constituency, the margins of victory or defeat were really slim. So it could have gone either way. The way it turned out eventually went in Mr. Modi's favor. So, but which is not to say that Mr. Modi did not benefit from votes from all across the spectrum. Youngsters in UP voted for him, and they will be
So
looking
that
for
was a
jobs.
constituency in a sense.
Yes, in terms of, so I'll wait a couple of years. Well, but I mean, India has been moving away from caste politics for a while.
You're right.
And there are states like Bihar, for instance, where Nitish Kumar,
I thought he resigned.
he resigned, but Nitish Kumar. Then there is a state called Odisha where the Chief Minister Biju Patnaik, Mr. Patnaik, they have shown that Indian voters now value governance more, performance more and more than just caste. So
Makes
it
sense.
will take a while for Indian voters to move away completely, but I don't see this election, past election, as that complete break.
So what's going to happen to the Congress party? They did not get more than 76 seats. The grand-old party, the dynastic rules pretty much is collapsed, pretty much, and they planted the seeds for their own undoing. So what is the future for them?
It's been pronounced for dead many times before.
and the reason from
they have bounced back. I mean, they bounced back from emergency. They bounced back.
But they needed some good leadership, charismatic leadership.
That too, but the party is married to this family in a way, and
They lost the lust of this dynastic rule.
that's
Indians
to be
have.
seen. That's
To
to
be
be
seen.
seen. I mean, for Congress leaders to come out from under the shadow of the family requires a lot of courage. The last time they tried, it didn't work.
And they failed.
It didn't quite work for them.
Exactly.
So-
You're talking about during Mrs. Gandhi's tenure.
No,
After Mrs. Gandhi's tenure?
after Narasimha Rao.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the time when the party moved the most, the furthest from the family, and they went back to the family immediately after because it didn't quite work out from them. So again, it's a story will be watched how they come back, but do not write them off for sure.
Okay, so that's what you wanted the audience to know. I have two questions. How's the Indian American community taking Mr. Modi's victory, and how's the U.S. media has covered the Indian elections?
Oh, the Indian American community, especially those from Gujarat and in fact all over, and I saw this massive enthusiasm for Mr. Modi, and but not for the BJP. I mean, a lot of these people went to India to work for Mr. Modi during the elections. And in conversations, I asked if they were BJP voters too. And they said, no, they're not. They're not BJP voters. They're there only for Mr. Modi. If Mr. Modi wasn't around,
They wouldn't be there.
they wouldn't be there.
Oh, okay.
Their votes are not transferable to BJP. They're not the same as BJP. So, but there is a section of Indian American population which will not be very happy, which has been trying to.
You're talking about the population which is more progressive and
Well, not exactly. A section which has opinions about his performance in Gujarat during the 2002 riots.
Hindu-Muslim riots.
2002 riots. So they're not very sure if Mr. Modi is above blame completely but
Right.
he is above blame in
He
terms
was
of
he was the
legally there
chief
is-
minister. He was the leader.
and but he's not been found
Guilty.
guilty or no wrongdoing. He's been not found guilty of any wrongdoing by many courts so far. So well, that's just again. But to your second question was about media, American media.
Yeah. Have they covered
American
the
media
Indian elections?
woke up to it a little late. They were far too focused on Ukrainian election
Right,
and
right.
some of the other elections.
But they did.
But once they did, I mean, I was amazed by the kind of coverage the Indian elections got in all mainline newspapers, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and they all had page one coverage. And,
Yeah, and Washington Post has a bit. As a foreign correspondent, what's your biggest challenge covering the United States? Do you find this place is very open?
oh, it is
in
completely.
terms of
It is
getting
very
what you-
open. It is very open. It's very. But my biggest challenge is in India, I will never have to explain to anybody what Hindustan Times is, or here I have to spell it out.
You have to spell it.
HINDUST, etc., etc. But
That's obviously sort of ignorant.
not ignorant. I mean, it's just that the paper is not. I mean,
They're not like Times of India is.
no, Times of India too. They have the same.
The
they
same
have
problem?
Same problem. I worked in Times of India for 11 years.
It's the same thing.
So it's the same thing. Most Indian newspapers or media houses will have the same problem.
But in terms of exposed to the U.S. Medias and being open, being inclusive, you find this place a sort of a joy for you to work here as a correspondent. as foreign
It is completely.
As I understand, you describe yourself a news addict.
Okay.
You are big on Twitter, where you have a nice following. How these social media tools made your job as a journalist easier or more difficult?
Oh, definitely easier. Without a doubt. The first thing I do every morning when I get up is I look at my Twitter account to know what's happening around the world. I don't watch television. I do not go.
So
and
you
look
get
at-
mostly from internet, most of your news.
only Twitter. I get all my information from Twitter. Most of it from Twitter.
Okay. Well,
Other than human sources. and
which
other
is probably that much true in India also. The social media is playing a very significant role. And they play a very significant role in Modi's elections.
things. Absolutely.
So
Mr. Modi, by the way, he's himself a.
does he tweet?
Well, a lot. He tweets a lot, and he is very active on social media.
So we are at the new era.
You'll be surprised to know, or probably you know, that even soon as he finished taking his oath of office,
He tweeted.
no, he didn't tweet, but a note from him was up on his website, PMO website,
Wow.
immediately.
Wow.
I mean, it was just timed so well.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for
I appreciate
having
it
me on
very
the
much
show.
for coming here. Thank you for watching the show. Please join us next week for another edition of the show. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week.